The Trespasser. Monica Harris had worked her entire life for this. At 47, she had finally built the home of her dreams, a sleek, modern oasis in the heart of Scottsdale, Arizona. The house was everything she had envisioned: high ceilings, wide glass windows that let in the golden desert sunlight, and most importantly, a pristine backyard with a pool that sparkled like a sapphire under the sun. She hadn't been handed anything in life. Raised by a single mother in a cramped apartment in Atlanta, Monica had worked tirelessly to carve out a future. Late nights, early mornings, corporate battles, and sacrifices. She had done it all. And now, finally, this was hers, every inch of it. But apparently, someone else didn't seem to get the memo. It started small. At first, she noticed little things: a misplaced towel draped over one of her lounge chairs, an empty wine glass sitting on the side table near the pool. She assumed maybe the wind had blown something over from a neighbor's yard, or perhaps a landscaper had left a glass behind by accident. Then she started seeing the footprints. They were wet, leading from the pool to the patio, then toward the back gate. At first, Monica thought she was losing it. She wasn't married, had no kids, and rarely entertained guests. So how in the world were wet footprints appearing around her pool when she hadn't even gone for a swim? The answer came one early morning, just after sunrise. Monica had stepped out onto her patio, coffee in hand, ready to enjoy a quiet morning before heading to work. That's when she saw her. A woman, lounging on one of her chairs, sunglasses on, flipping through a magazine like she was on vacation. Monica nearly dropped her coffee. Her mind raced. Was she still dreaming? Was this some kind of prank? The woman had the nerve to stretch, take a lazy sip from a glass of what looked like wine, and adjust her sun hat as if she had every right to be there. Monica felt a rush of anger so sharp she didn't even hesitate. She yanked open the sliding door and stormed outside. "Excuse me?" Her voice was sharp, laced with disbelief. The woman didn't even flinch. She turned her head lazily, lifted her sunglasses, and smirked. "Oh, hey," she said casually, like they were old friends. "I didn't think you'd mind. It's just so hot today." Monica's grip tightened around her coffee cup. Who in the hell? She had seen this woman before, in passing. A neighbor, though not one she had ever spoken to. A well-dressed blonde who lived a few houses down. Monica vaguely recalled her name was Ashley, or Allison, something like that. Monica took a slow breath, trying to steady herself. I do mind," she snapped. "This is my house. My pool. You need to leave." The woman sighed dramatically, like a teenager being asked to clean their room. All right, she said, waving a hand as she stood up. "No need to be hostile." Hostile. Monica clenched her jaw as she watched the woman gather her things with all the urgency of a turtle crossing the road. There was no rush, no guilt, just an air of pure entitlement. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the woman strolled toward the back gate and disappeared into the yard next door. That was the first time Monica learned her name. Allison Callahan. And that was the first time she thought it was over. She was wrong. The second offense. 2 days later, Monica came home from running errands and immediately felt it. The air smelled like sunscreen and rosé. She stepped onto her back patio, and sure enough, there it was, an empty wine bottle sitting on the side table, the condensation still fresh. A magazine lay open on the lounge chair. And there, leading away from the pool, were the same damn footprints. Monica's hands trembled as she clenched them into fists. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. That night, she marched over to Allison's house and pounded on the door. It took a few seconds before the lock clicked, and when the door opened, there she was, Allison Callahan, dressed in an expensive-looking silk robe, hair wrapped in a towel, a glass of wine in her hand. She had the nerve to look surprised. "Oh, hey, what's up?" Monica could barely keep her voice steady. You know exactly what's up, she snapped. I don't know what kind of entitlement makes you think my backyard is yours, but it stops now. For a second, something flickered across Allison's face. Annoyance, maybe. But then she chuckled. Oh, come on, she said, leaning against the doorframe. It's just a pool. It's not like I'm hurting anything. Monica exhaled sharply, choosing her words carefully. You don't seem to understand boundaries, she said through gritted teeth. So let me make this crystal clear. Stay out of my yard. Allison raised her hands in mock surrender. Fine, she said, sipping her wine. Message received. But Monica wasn't naive. That fake apology meant nothing. And sure enough, just a few days later, she came home to find the gate unlocked. A damp lounge chair, and a freshly emptied wine glass sitting right on the table. Like a slap in the face, Monica's patience snapped. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. This was a challenge, and Monica Harris was not about to lose. The game begins. Monica Harris was done. The polite warnings, the reasonable conversations, the expectation that adults would respect basic boundaries, it was all useless. Because Allison Callahan didn't see herself as someone who had done anything wrong. In her mind, she wasn't trespassing. She wasn't breaking any rules. She was simply using something she felt entitled to. But not anymore. Monica refused to let some overgrown teenager in a middle-aged woman's body turn her hard-earned paradise into a free public amenity. So she got to work. Step 1. The signs. The very next morning, Monica ordered 3 large PRIVEHIROPRT no trespassing signs from a local store. They were bold, clear, and impossible to ignore. She placed one right at the gate entrance, another near the patio where Allison had been lounging like she was at a 5-star resort, and the third, right by the pool, just in case Allison had poor eyesight along with her poor judgment. By the afternoon, Monica stepped back, admiring her work. Try ignoring that. But 2 days later, she found one of the signs lying face down in the grass, as if someone had deliberately knocked it over. Monica felt her eye twitch. Fine, maybe Allison hadn't seen the signs. Maybe it had been the wind. She gave her one last chance. Step 2. The lock. Monica ordered a sturdy metal latch and a combination padlock. She installed them on the back gate, making sure it was secure. If Allison tried to sneak in again, she'd be stopped cold. Or so Monica thought. The third offense. It was a long, scorching day at work. Monica had spent 9 straight hours dealing with corporate nonsense, the kind that made her wonder why she hadn't packed up and moved to some remote island years ago. By the time she pulled into her driveway, she was exhausted. All she wanted was to kick off her heels, pour herself a glass of wine, and spend the evening in peace. But as she stepped out of her car, something caught her eye. A flash of movement. Her breath caught in her throat. Through the slats of the backyard fence, she saw a figure floating in her pool. No way. Monica's jaw tightened as she marched toward the gate. She entered the code, yanked it open, and stormed inside, her heart pounding with rage. There she was, Allison Callahan, reclining on a pool float, arms stretched along the edges like she was on vacation. She didn't even look startled, didn't panic, didn't jump up like a guilty trespasser should. Instead, she sighed, peeling open one eye like Monica was interrupting her relaxation. "Oh hey," Allison said lazily. "Didn't hear you come in." Monica's entire soul wanted to flip the damn pool float over. "You have lost your damn mind." Allison smirked. "Relax, Monica. It's just a pool." That phrase again. Monica's fingers twitched. "It's not just a pool. It's my pool. On my property. And this is trespassing." Allison gave an exaggerated eye roll before pushing herself up to sit on the ledge of the pool. "Oh my God, Monica, you're acting like I committed a crime. It's just water. What do you think is gonna happen?" You gonna call the cops on me? Monica's eyes darkened. Yes. The smirk on Allison's face wavered. Monica stepped closer, voice sharp as steel. This is your final warning. The next time I catch you here, I won't be the one knocking on your door. You'll be explaining yourself to the police. For a second, just 1 second, she saw something shift in Allison's expression, a flicker of hesitation. Then it was gone. Allison let out a dramatic sigh, grabbed her towel, and strolled past Monica, too slow, too smug. As she reached the gate, she turned back, tilting her head. You know, she said, voice dripping with condescension, you should really learn to share. Not everyone is as lucky as you. Monica's blood boiled. She turned, locking the gate behind Allison before bolting it shut. Then she stormed inside, grabbed her phone, and ordered security cameras. Because this was war. Step 3. The cameras. The cameras arrived 2 days later, and Monica wasted no time installing them. She placed one by the pool, another near the patio, and a third watching the gate. If Allison even breathed near her property again, Monica would have proof. And she wouldn't be asking her to leave next time. She would press charges. But she didn't expect what happened next. The 4th offense. Saturday afternoon, Monica had plans. A spa day. A nice dinner afterward. Anything to take her mind off her insufferable neighbor. Before leaving, she checked the locks, ensured the cameras were recording, and left for the day. She told herself there was no way Allison would be bold enough to try again. She was wrong. That evening, as she pulled into her driveway, Monica grabbed her phone and checked the security footage. Her stomach dropped. At exactly noon, the footage showed Allison walking right through the side yard, towel in hand, acting like she owned the place. She didn't just go for a swim. She had a whole damn spa day. Floating on a pool armchair, sipping wine, flipping through a magazine, for nearly 2 hours. Then, as if that wasn't bad enough, she did something that pushed Monica over the edge. Before leaving, Allison lifted her wine glass, tilted it toward the camera, and smirked. Monica saw red. She grabbed her keys, marched next door, and pounded on Allison's door so hard the porch light flickered. The lock clicked. The door swung open, and there stood Allison Callahan, dressed in a silk robe, hair damp, wine glass in hand. She had the nerve to look amused. Oh, hey, what's up? Monica shoved her phone in Allison's face. You broke into my yard again. Allison glanced at the screen, completely unbothered. Oh, relax, Monica. I was just cooling off. Monica let out a bitter laugh. Fun. All right, Allison. You want to play games. Let's play. The trap is set. Monica had had enough. Enough of the smirking. Enough of the wine glasses left behind like souvenirs. Enough of Allison Callahan's blatant disrespect for boundaries. This wasn't just trespassing anymore. This was deliberate mockery. Allison had laughed in her face, knowing she could get away with it. She toasted to the cameras like Monica was the one being ridiculous. Monica could have called the police right then and there. Could have pressed charges. Could have made Allison explain to a judge why she thought someone else's private property was her personal day spa. But no, that was too easy. Allison was the type of woman who had never faced real consequences. The type who could talk her way out of trouble with a sweet little smirk and an insincere apology. Monica wasn't interested in a legal battle. She wanted something better. She wanted Allison humiliated. So, Monica devised a plan. Step 1. The stain that wouldn't fade. The next morning, Monica made a trip to a specialty supply store. Not just any pool supply shop, one that sold industrial-grade products. She walked straight to the counter and placed an order for 2 key ingredients. A harmless, but extremely potent, dye, the kind used in public fountains to detect leaks, completely invisible until activated by water. A strong, lingering, food-safe chemical, odorless until it hit skin, where it reacted with body heat to release a scent that could only be described as rotting garbage mixed with sulfur. The store clerk raised an eyebrow as he scanned the items. "Prank war?" he asked with a knowing smirk. Monica just smiled. You could say that. When she got home, she carefully measured just the right amounts of both chemicals and poured them into the pool. By the naked eye, nothing looked different. The water was still crystal clear, shimmering under the Arizona sun. But the moment someone stepped in, the dye would bind to their skin, turning a deep, splotchy purple that wouldn't wash off for days. And the chemical reaction. Let's just say Allison wouldn't be sneaking into anyone's pool again. Satisfied, Monica set up her security cameras and waited. Step 2. The bait. Monica knew Allison. She knew her neighbor had the self-control of a toddler in a candy store. So Monica did exactly what Allison expected her to do. She left for the day. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Instead of parking in her driveway like usual, she pulled her car down the street, out of sight. Then, she used her phone to pull up the live security feed and waited. Allison wouldn't be able to resist, and Monica was right. Step 3. The perfect trap. 12:07 p.m. The gate rattled. Monica leaned forward, watching the screen as Allison peeked through the slats. She hesitated for a moment. Then, as if confirming Monica was gone, she waltzed right in. Towel slung over her shoulder, sunglasses perched on her head, and a fresh bottle of wine in hand. Bold. She didn't even hesitate. Monica watched, her grin widening, as Allison set down her things, stretched luxuriously, and stepped into the pool. The moment her skin hit the water, it began. First, she paused, frowning down at her arms as inky purple stains began to appear. Then she sniffed the air. Her expression shifted, from confusion to concern to absolute horror. Monica watched in pure satisfaction as Allison suddenly gagged, clapped a hand over her nose, and screamed. "What the? Oh my God!" She scrambled out of the pool, slipping on the slick tiles, her entire body streaked in purple stains. Then came the stench. It hit her all at once. The moment she tried rubbing her arms, the chemicals reacted with the heat of her skin, releasing a foul, putrid odor that clung to her like skunk spray and rotten eggs had a baby. Allison dry-heaved. She stumbled, eyes wild, gagging as she desperately tried to wipe her skin. But the dye wasn't coming off. And neither was the smell. Step 4. The walk of shame. Monica took her time. She let Allison marinate in her mistake for a solid 3 minutes before she finally made her presence known. She stepped out onto her patio, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. "Allison," she called out casually. "Something wrong?" Allison whipped around, her face an absolute mask of horror and rage. "You," she screeched. She stank like a rotting dumpster in the middle of the desert. Her hair, once platinum blonde, was now streaked with murky purple patches. Her skin was a blotchy mess. She looked like a tie-dye experiment gone wrong. "What did you do?" she shrieked, flailing her arms. Monica took a sip of her iced tea. "Me," she said innocently. "I didn't do anything. Maybe you should be more careful about the pools you trespass into." Allison let out a frustrated scream, stomping toward the gate, leaving a trail of purple footprints behind her. Monica didn't even try to hide or smirk. The entire street was going to smell her before they saw her. And that was the best part. Because Allison was about to make the most humiliating walk of her life, past all the neighbors, looking like an absolute disaster, smelling like death itself. Monica leaned against the fence as Allison fumbled with the gate, coughing, her face twisted in horror as she realized the stench wasn't fading. "Oh, and Allison," Monica called sweetly. Allison froze, glaring. Monica smiled. "If I ever catch you in my pool again." She tilted her head. "Let's just say this will be the least of your problems." Allison let out one last frustrated shriek, then stomped out of the yard, leaving behind a trail of purple, putrid shame. Monica exhaled, stretching. Finally, peace at last. Or so she thought. The retaliation. For the first time in weeks, Monica Harris woke up feeling satisfied. After dealing with weeks of Allison Callahan's trespassing, entitlement, and blatant disrespect, Monica had finally won. The pool prank had been a masterpiece, a harmless, humiliating, unforgettable punishment that had left Allison looking like a tie-dyed disaster and smelling like a corpse had taken a bath in rotten eggs. And the best part, the entire neighborhood saw it. The moment Allison stomped out of Monica's backyard, streaked in purple dye, dripping wet, gagging from the lingering stench, she had to march past at least 3 nosy neighbors. Mrs. Delgado from across the street had actually gasped aloud, clutching her pearls like she'd just witnessed a crime scene. Mr. Parker, the retired military vet, had chuckled under his breath and muttered something about consequences. And Jenny Carter, the neighborhood's self-appointed HOA queen, had been furiously typing on her phone, probably drafting up some dramatic community-wide email about public decency. But the absolute cherry on top, Allison had no excuse. She couldn't lie her way out of it. Couldn't say Monica had attacked her. Because everyone knew the truth. She had trespassed. She had been caught. And she had suffered the consequences. Monica had won. Or so she thought. The silence before the storm. The next morning, Monica sipped her coffee on the patio, watching. For once, Allison's yard was quiet. No music blasting from the speakers. No bottles of rosé clinking against glass. No wet footprints sneaking from Monica's yard to Allison's back door. It was as if the woman had finally given up. And yet, something felt off. Monica knew people like Allison. They didn't take humiliation well. And if Monica had learned anything in her life, it was that the most dangerous people weren't the ones who screamed in your face. It was the ones who waited, plotted, planned, and struck when you least expected it. So Monica wasn't surprised when, just 3 days later, she smelled the smoke before she saw the fire. The fire pit incident. It was around 8 p.m. when Monica first caught the scent. Acrid, sharp, burning plastic mixed with cheap cologne. She frowned, stepping onto her balcony. At first, she thought one of the neighbors was having a bonfire. But then she saw it. A thick plume of black smoke rising from Allison's backyard. What the hell? Monica leaned over the railing, squinting. And there, standing next to a flaming metal fire pit, was Allison Callahan, throwing things into the fire. Monica's eyes narrowed. The firelight cast wild shadows over Allison's face, her features twisted in what could only be described as pure, unfiltered rage. She grabbed something, a towel, maybe, and shoved it into the fire, watching as the flames devoured it. Then came the next thing, a purple-stained sundress. Then a pair of ruined designer flip-flops. One by one, she was burning the evidence. Monica almost laughed. She broke into my yard, got caught, and now she's having a full-on villain origin story in her backyard. But then, Allison did something that made Monica's amusement die on the spot. She grabbed her phone, dialed a number, and pressed it to her ear. Monica couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw the way Allison's face twisted into something ugly. And then, like clockwork, she turned to look directly at Monica's house. Monica's stomach dropped. Because whatever Allison was planning, it wasn't over. Not even close. The fake HOA complaint. The next morning, Monica was barely awake when her phone buzzed. She groaned, rubbing her eyes before glancing at the screen. A new email. Subject: Urgent HOA complaint. Violation of community standards. From Jenny Carter, HOA president. Monica's eyebrows lifted. Oh, here we go. She tapped the email open and skimmed it. And the longer she read, the faster her irritation grew. Dear Ms. Harris, it has come to our attention that there has been an incident regarding public decency improper pool maintenance, and the use of hazardous materials within your property. A concerned resident, whose name shall remain anonymous, has reported that you have engaged in reckless and potentially dangerous behavior, including the use of chemicals that may pose a threat to neighbors and the community's environment. As such, you are being asked to attend a formal review meeting with the HOA board this coming Friday to address these concerns. Failure to comply may result in a fine or further action. Sincerely, Jenny Carter, HOA President. Monica snorted. Anonymous resident, my ass. Only one person would be petty enough to run crying to the HOA after being caught trespassing in someone else's pool. And it sure as hell wasn't Mrs. Delgado. Allison was trying to turn the tables, trying to make Monica the villain. And if the HOA took her side, Monica could actually be fined. Or worse, forced to drain her pool and pay for a chemical inspection. Oh, hell no. If Allison wanted a war, she was about to get one. The meeting that changed everything. By the time Friday rolled around, Monica walked into that HOA meeting fully prepared. She had printed screenshots of her security footage, copies of the emails and texts she had sent Allison about staying off her property. And just for extra firepower, she had a witness statement from Mr. Parker, who had seen everything. But the best part, as soon as the meeting began, Monica leaned back in her chair, slid her phone onto the table, and played the security footage for the entire HOA board to see. The footage of Allison sneaking in, floating in the pool like a queen, smirking at the cameras. By the time the video ended, the room was dead silent. Then, Jenny Carter, HOA queen herself, sighed and turned to Allison. "Miss Callahan," she said flatly, "is this you?" Allison turned red. I don't see how that's relevant." Jenny held up a hand. "I think we're done here." Allison's mouth dropped open. Monica just smirked. Because not only did the HOA dismiss the complaint, they fined Allison instead. And that was only the beginning. Because Allison Callahan was about to get exactly what she deserved. The final mistake. Monica Harris sat on her patio, sipping an ice-cold margarita, feeling something she hadn't felt in weeks: satisfaction. Allison Callahan had tried it. She had trespassed. She had ignored warnings. She had mocked the security cameras. And then, when Monica turned the tables, Allison had run crying to the HOA like a child who didn't get her way. And what had that gotten her? A public humiliation in front of the entire HOA board, a fine for trespassing, and the entire neighborhood knowing her as the woman who got dyed purple and smelled like skunk roadkill. Monica had won. Game over. Or so she thought. Because Allison Callahan, she wasn't done yet. The last desperate act. The peace lasted for exactly 3 days. On the 4th day, Monica received a knock on her door. A loud, insistent police knock. Frowning, she set down her drink and walked to the door. When she opened it, she was met with 2 uniformed police officers standing on her porch. And behind them, standing with her arms crossed, wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf around her stained hair, was none other than Allison Callahan. Monica's stomach sank. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." One of the officers, a grizzled-looking man with salt and pepper hair, gave her a polite nod. "Ma'am," he said, "we received a report of an assault and chemical attack that allegedly took place here. We need to ask you some questions." Monica blinked. Then she laughed. The officer's expression remained neutral, but Allison's mouth twisted in outrage. "She's laughing." Allison snapped. "She thinks this is funny. I was poisoned." Monica leaned against the doorframe, shaking her head. "You trespassed into my yard. You went swimming in my pool. And you got caught. How exactly am I the criminal here?" The younger officer, a blonde woman who looked barely out of training, cleared her throat. "Well, Ms. Callahan claims that you intentionally placed harmful substances in your pool, knowing she would enter. She alleges that the chemicals left her with." She glanced at her notepad, permanent discoloration, emotional distress, and temporary respiratory issues. Monica arched an eyebrow. "Oh, wow," she said dryly. "I didn't realize I was being investigated for war crimes." The older officer sighed. "Do you have security footage of the incident?" Monica's smile widened. "Oh, you mean the footage that clearly shows her trespassing?" she asked, already pulling out her phone. "Yeah, I do." She scrolled through her security app, found the clip, and handed the phone to the officer. And as they watched, Allison started sweating, because the footage showed everything. Her sneaking in, her lounging in the pool like she owned it, her reacting in horror as the dye kicked in, her scrambling out, gagging, covered in purple stains. When the video ended, the officers exchanged a long look. The younger one muttered, "That's trespassing." The older one rubbed his temples. "Miss Callahan, is there a reason you failed to mention that you illegally entered her property?" Allison's face went pale. That's not the point," she stammered. "She set a trap for me." Monica folded her arms. "You mean the pool that I pay for? The one that's on my land?" The officer gave Allison a long, unimpressed stare. Then he let out a heavy sigh. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges for trespassing? Because you have a strong case." Allison's head snapped up so fast, Monica thought she might get whiplash. "Wait, what?" Allison choked. Monica smiled. Oh, how the tables have turned. She let the moment stretch, watching Allison squirm. Then, finally, she let out a slow, exaggerated sigh. "You know what?" she mused. "I could press charges." Allison flinched. Monica took a step closer, staring her dead in the eyes. "But I won't." Allison blinked, stunned. The officers both raised their eyebrows. Monica smiled sweetly. "Not because you deserve mercy, but because I don't have time to drag you through court." She tilted her head. "And trust me, Allison, you should be grateful for that." Allison's jaw clenched so tight, Monica thought she might crack a molar. The older officer nodded. "All right then. Miss Callahan, I'd recommend you stay off her property. If you trespass again, she's well within her rights to have you arrested." And then, like poetry, he turned to Monica and said, "You have a good evening, ma'am." Allison stormed off without another word. And just like that, it was over. Or so Monica thought, because Allison's downfall was only just beginning. The ultimate karma. Monica expected Allison to go quiet after that, to lick her wounds, cut her losses, and move on. But what she didn't expect was the for sale sign that appeared on Allison's front lawn just 1 week later. Monica had just finished watering her plants when she saw it. A bright red for sale sign staked into the grass of Allison's front yard. For a moment, she just stared. Then, slowly, a smirk curled at her lips. She walked to her mailbox, conveniently positioned right across from Allison's house, just in time to hear her arguing with a real estate agent on the porch. "This is ridiculous," Allison snapped. "I shouldn't have to sell. This is all because of that woman." The agent, a frazzled-looking man in a cheap suit, sighed. "Miss Callahan, we've already had 3 buyers back out because of the complaints from the neighbors." Allison whipped around. "Complaints? About what?" The agent hesitated. The pool situation, the security footage, and the HOA fines." Allison's face turned red. Monica nearly choked on her laughter. Karma had finally come knocking. And the best part, it was self-inflicted. Allison had made herself a pariah. She wasn't just the crazy trespassing neighbor. She was now the woman who got dyed purple, stank up the neighborhood, and had the cops called on her for her own stupidity. Nobody wanted to buy a house with that kind of baggage. And that was justice. Monica walked back inside, letting the sweet, sweet sound of Allison's furious ranting fade into the distance. She grabbed herself another margarita, stepped onto her balcony, and admired her perfectly empty, peaceful pool. Because after weeks of battle, after signs, security cameras, HOA meetings, and police reports, she had finally won. And this time, there was no comeback for Allison Callahan. The ultimate goodbye. For the first time in months, Monica Harris had her peace back. The pool, untouched. The backyard, spotless. The neighborhood, blessedly silent. No more entitled wine-sipping trespasser. No more smirking at the security cameras. No more fake HOA complaints. And best of all, Allison Callahan was leaving. The for sale sign on her lawn was a glorious sight. She had trashed her own reputation, and now she had no choice but to pack up and go. It was perfect. But Monica, she wasn't done yet, because before Allison left, Monica had one last gift for her, a final goodbye, a lesson she'd never forget. The good luck party. Monica spent the next week gathering information. And by gathering information, she meant chatting with the neighbors and drinking wine while subtly getting the inside scoop on Allison's situation. According to Jenny Carter, the neighborhood's nosiest HOA queen, Allison's house had been on the market for weeks with 0 buyers. People Google things now. Jenny had sighed dramatically, stirring her tea. And your pool video? It's practically a legend around here. Monica had smirked. I bet that makes selling difficult. Jenny grinned. Oh, honey, she's desperate. And desperate people, they made mistakes, which is exactly what Monica was counting on. The congratulations gift. On the morning of Allison's moving day, Monica put her plan into action. She stepped outside, stretched, and called across the yard, "Morning, Allison." Allison, who was standing on her porch supervising 2 miserable-looking movers, froze. Then, slowly, she turned. She was still wearing her oversized sunglasses, but Monica could see the exhaustion written all over her face. She was tired, defeated, done. And Monica, she loved it. "I heard you're finally selling," Monica said, flashing her best neighborly smile. "I just wanted to say, congratulations." Allison's jaw tightened. "I'm moving," she corrected. "Not selling." The deal fell through. Monica blinked innocently. "Oh no. Why?" Allison glared. "You know why." Monica sipped her coffee. "Well," she said sweetly, "I wanted to give you a farewell gift." She reached behind her chair and grabbed a beautifully wrapped basket. It was huge, stuffed with bottles of wine, expensive chocolates, fancy soaps. Allison hesitated. "What is this?" Monica smiled. "A spa kit." Allison's entire face twisted. "A what?" Monica held it out. "You know, since you love treating my backyard like a luxury retreat, I figured you could have a real one." Allison stared at her, mouth opening and closing like a fish. One of the movers snickered. Monica leaned in slightly. "This time, the water won't turn you purple." And that was the final straw. Allison snatched off her sunglasses, her face beet red with rage. "You think you're funny, don't you?" she snapped. Monica tilted her head. "Oh, I know I am." Allison shook with fury. Then, without another word, she whirled around, stomped into her house, and slammed the door shut so hard that the movers flinched. Monica took a slow, satisfied sip of her coffee. Mission accomplished. The final act of petty revenge. Monica thought that would be the end of it. But then, she noticed something. The moving truck. It was still there. Hours later, Allison was supposed to be gone, yet the movers were still standing around, looking confused. Curious, Monica strolled out to check her mail. As she did, she overheard one of the movers, a young guy with a clipboard, talking to his boss. "She won't let us pack the last room," the kid said. "She says she wants to do it herself." His boss sighed. "Dude, we're on a schedule. If she doesn't hurry, She's getting charged an extra day. Monica's smirk widened. Oh, Allison. Still trying to control everything, even as her life fell apart. So, Monica did the only logical thing. She waited. And then, she called Jenny Carter. "Hey, Jenny," Monica said, keeping her voice casual. "Did you know Allison is blocking her own move?" Jenny perked up immediately. "She's what?" Monica grinned. "Yep, she won't let the movers pack the last of her things. And since you're, the HOA queen and all, I figured you'd wanna make sure she follows the rules." Jenny gasped like she'd just won the lottery. "She's delaying the move. Oh, that's a violation." Monica could practically hear her grabbing a clipboard. "I'll handle this." And oh, did she ever. 10 minutes later, Jenny marched up to Allison's door, clipboard in hand, ready for war. The two women argued for 20 straight minutes. By the end of it, Allison, angry, humiliated, and now facing extra moving fees, was forced to hand over her last few boxes to the movers. An hour later, the truck rolled away, and Allison Callahan, she was finally gone. Epilogue. Peace at last. That night, Monica stood by her perfectly silent pool, glass of wine in hand. For the first time in months, she could relax without worrying about trespassers, HOA complaints, or entitled wine-drunk neighbors. No more Allison. No more smirking. No more nonsense. Just peace. She took a slow sip of wine, sighed contentedly, and smiled. And then, she did one last thing. She pulled out her phone, opened her security app, and deleted every single video of Allison's pool incidents, because Allison Callahan, she wasn't even worth remembering. The ultimate goodbye. Monica Harris sat in her backyard that evening, enjoying a glass of wine by her pool, the very same pool that had been the battleground of an absurd war. The war was over. And Monica, she had won. Allison Callahan was gone. Her overpriced designer sunglasses, her smug attitude, her entitled antics. Gone. The final humiliation. Jenny Carter forcing her to finish her own damn move while racking up extra fees had been the icing on the cake. And now, Monica had her home back. Her sanctuary. Her peace. But before she could let it all go completely, there was one last loose end to tie up. The last goodbye. The next morning, Monica grabbed her coffee and did something she never thought she'd do. She walked over to Allison's now empty house. The for sale sign was still up, swinging slightly in the breeze. The driveway was eerily empty. The windows, vacant, lifeless. For the first time since she had moved in, the house felt normal. Just another property instead of the lair of an entitled monster. Monica reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, neatly folded note. She bent down, tucked it into the mailbox, and patted it like an old friend. Then, with a satisfied smile, she turned and walked away. And what was on the note? Just 6 simple words. Enjoy your new home. Stay out. Because if Allison Callahan ever thought about pulling this stunt again in another neighborhood, she'd remember Monica Harris. And she'd remember the woman who taught her a lesson she'd never forget. Epilogue. The calm after the storm. The days after Allison's departure were blissfully quiet. No more surprise wet footprints by the pool. No more rosy bottles left behind like trophies. No more fake HOA complaints. For the first time in months, Monica could go outside, stretch her arms, and breathe in the peace of her own damn home. The new neighbors moved in a few months later. A sweet retired couple who actually understood boundaries. Monica welcomed them with fresh-baked cookies and a genuine smile. Because unlike Allison, these people weren't a nightmare wrapped in designer labels and entitlement. Life, finally, was good again. And Monica, she was happier than ever. The battle for the pool, officially over.